All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Friday Open Studio design sessions. Well, it's a Friday this week, but normally it's, on a weekly basis. It switches between Thursdays and Fridays, but today is the last furlough day for my work, so in the coming weeks, these sessions will likely be streamed on Fridays only. So let me just turn on the lights real quick. It's a little bit dark in here. All right, much better. So the plan for today is to continue working on the F16 project that I've been doing for a while now, actually. This is over a month in the making, to be honest, and I don't think I've ever taken that long for a single project. Again, then again, my efforts are quite sporadic. I guess it's once a week for 2 hours about. So, I don't make a ton of progress every time, but little by little, it's all coming together. And so the plan is to continue that this week in this stream, and we're gonna see how far we get. Again, I want to prioritize quality of the project over how fast we do it, but I'm trying to really strike a balance in that trade-off. So right now I am working on the canopy portion of the F16. You'll remember last time or 2 streams ago I had this very jank tape structure that was supposed to represent the canopy, but we scrapped that completely and then restarted this forward portion of this aircraft right here. And last time we got to this point where we drew the side cross section, right, and then created a part for that, and then essentially made it into a loft, which is what you see here. You have your tab and slot construction method where you cut halfway through one piece of material, and then you cut halfway through another piece, and you kind of slot them together. And so this is kind of what I've been doing last time to get this canopy shape. So we have number 2 here and number 3, and these are numbered according to which ones are forward. The forward one here is going to be number 1, and so on. So 2 and 3 are actually identical, which is why we were able to do them last week. And it might not appear like a ton of progress, but this takes a lot of time to test out. For every finished part you see here, there's usually several other parts that we prototyped on with a printer paper, and eventually chose not to use that. So what you're seeing here is the result of all that effort. It might not be much, but I feel like it does take a bit of time to get this correct. So this week we're gonna really try and finish off this canopy with a definitive conclusion to the part. I don't know how it'll turn out, but hopefully it'll look decent. Right now I think the main concern with this method of construction is how we're gonna loft the panels that are gonna cover this. That's going to be kind of a challenge. The structure is there. It's just lofting a curved surface, it curves this way across the pitch axis and also the roll axis. So this is a compound kind of surface that you want to curve a piece of material over, which is going to be kind of difficult, but we'll figure it out. So the plan is to really finish this, and if we have time, the plan is to you'll notice that this is only really the top half so far that we have completed. So we'll have to work on the underside of the aircraft, which includes, you know, like a kind of rounded nose up front, right? And then I think I marked out the location already, so that's nice, where the intake kind of just hangs down and then, you know, goes to the back of the plane. I think once that's installed, it'll pretty much be done. It's just a matter of, you know, touching up the details beyond that point. But it's gonna take a while. I feel like this is gonna take either a month or two more to really complete, and it depends on whether or not I'm going to, you know, put in some time outside of these live streams to work on this, but that doesn't seem very likely, but I'm not ruling that possibility out, just to speed up the process a little bit. So that's kind of the plan going forward. We're going to work on the canopy today, and hopefully we have time to get started on the underside of the aircraft, which is, you know, right now you can see it's a Cheerio box material right here. But yeah, let's dive right in. So last time we kind of developed the process of creating these cross sections, right? It's a lot of trial and error, and that is pretty much what we're gonna do today. We've got to start with a piece of just regular printer paper, you know, white printer paper you see here. So that's going to be our prototyping material because it's cheap, it's readily available, right? And we're going to take a pencil just because, you know, it's my tool of choice for marking down things, I guess. You can kind of get like a width measurement, which I think last time we measured, it's about 1.5 centimeters or something like that. It's kind of hard to gauge that, actually. And then, you know, it'll be at 1/2, which is 0.75, which is right about here. And then, you know, like, cut this off, right? We can cut this area out and try and approximate a loft structure for now, but really gonna have to test out whether or not that's gonna work. Just the overall size, I guess. We're not doing the final fit quite yet. And also, it's been a week, so I'm really trying to get back in the groove of things. So if you do that, let's see what happens here. You get a part that kind of fits. So it's not quite large enough, or maybe the cut isn't high enough, actually. So actually the cut is already at 1/2, so maybe this needs to go deeper, which, you know, hopefully we won't mess this up. But if we allow it to go deeper, then our part can slide in more snugly. Okay, so this looks kind of good. Just gonna have to increase the size of this just a little bit. And maybe make this slope less outwards, more downwards, right? And then go deeper, basically. So luckily, I can do just that. Kind of the shape that we want to go with. Let's just trim off this area right here. Right. Actually, I'm going to fold along this line just to try and get a better, more symmetrical part. That. All right. So something like that. And I'm going to cut this so. Test the fit of this. All right, so that's quite a deep cut on the canopy already, so we're gonna have to cut this, extend this a little bit more. Problem with that is you're trading off structural strength by making such a deep cut. But overall, this shape does the job. It actually fits almost exactly how we need it to. Again, this is not like a scientific process, right? We don't have the actual cross sections from the F-16. It should be amazing if we did, but that stuff is military, so it's gonna be classified. Even things like canopies, right? They seem kind of trivial, but there's a lot of technology and engineering that goes into it. I know for not the F-16, but for like things like the F-35, F-22, the exact shape of those cockpits are pretty important to not only the aerodynamics, but also like the radar signature. Because you want to be stealthy, right? Definition of what a 5th gen fighter is going to be. So you need to have very stringent specifications on your canopy. So that's why they don't release like the cross-section info. Like any company like that, at that level, you're not going to want to just give away your secrets like that, your design methodology and whatnot. So, well, it is what it is. And for our purposes, since we're just creating like a model that'll fly, things like that, we don't really need that accurate of a canopy. But just eyeballing it like this gets you quite close to the end product, and that's really all that matters here. We're not trying to match it spec for spec. We're not trying to make a shape that's essentially the same, congruent, but scaled down. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to create something that kind of reflects the design of the F-16, I guess. So this bit is important. You don't want to mess this up. Here we go. And then here, trace out this side of the triangle. Alright, looks pretty good. Just completing some edges there. Now we can take it and just kind of trim off this side first, just to make it easier to work with. Hopefully there are no technical glitches today. You know, my AC is finally working after a couple streams in the past that was broken and nothing was going my way. So the AC is going, which means the phone is less likely to overheat, but you know, who knows, right? And also sometimes the YouTube app crashes while I live stream, and I can't, you know, continue where I left off in the live stream, so I just have to cancel it and start anew. So hopefully that doesn't happen today, but if it does, then, you know, kind of, oh well, it's on YouTube, it's not my fault. So this is looking good. This is gonna be called, I guess, kind of cross section number 1. Right, I'm just gonna write 1 there. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I'm just gonna do the same with this scrap here that would otherwise be waste, but we're using it for some part. Really, I should be tracing off of the original, but since these two are going to be together, I can always do a trim operation to make sure they fit together. This is really to save time, because using this printer paper one as a, I guess, tracing template, it's kind of bad because it's kind of flimsy and it's not very stable for your pencil tip to move along. Cardstock is a little bit stiffer, right? So it's it's more resistant to buckling and moving. So there we go, we copied that. Copied this corner here, this corner here, this midpoint here, and then remove this. It's kind of the cut point, so to speak. And then I'm just going to mark out exactly where to cut, which is here along this line, and which line to fold against, which is these 2 side panels here, defined by these triangles, right? This is pretty straightforward, but it's, you know, it's busy work. So the shape isn't perfect. You'll notice there's a bit of a flat edge on one side. But so this side is a little bit flat, but it's all right. It's not too critical. So yeah, we should probably number this 1 as well. I don't know if we can copy 1 for the back. Actually, we can try that just to test that idea out. So right now, one is, this cross section right here, number one, what we have based off of the printer paper, is designed for the nose section right here, and it actually fits quite nicely. I don't know if I can demonstrate it again, it's just a little bit stubborn, but you'll see that it actually fits almost exactly to the spec here. I don't know, I get lost for words there, but we're trying to figure out if one can be used for the back, because if it can, then we're going to save a lot of time trying to create cross sections. It's a quite tedious process, but the results are decent at least, so it's kind of worth it. Alright, so these cuts need to be a little bit offset here, and now you cut again. You can remove a very, very tiny sliver of material, and that makes it slightly better in terms of fit. Now you can see there's a slight cutout there. Now you can slide this, and well, it's a little large, but I'd say, by and large, it's decent. And I guess to save time, we could take that shortcut, which I think I will do. So this one was traced off of this one, and this is not really traceable after the first time. It's kind of beat up, so we won't be using this cross section. This is the original template, so just FYI, I guess. Just checking the chat real quick. Nobody said anything, so that's good. I mean, if you have questions, please feel free to ask and stuff like that. I also encourage you, since this is a open studio design session, I encourage you to work on your own projects in the background, and just keep this on like a podcast. You're listening in on progress from another person, and you're working on your own projects, so we can all be kind of productive in this crazy time of quarantine. So this we don't need. This is not the original. You'll notice that this piece right here is slightly larger. That's because we traced the outline of this and then cut that out, so it's gonna be slightly off, but that's okay because these two are paired together, right? They're the first kind of cross section, bulkhead, whatever you want to call it. So when I put them back to back, I can actually cut the excess off and then match the shapes. So that's why I'm not too concerned here. But for the next bulkhead, which is the one in the back here, I will have to trace the shape from I guess this is like not the original, but this is the first production part of the cardstock material, stuff like that. So we're just a little bit more lead there. In case you're curious, I'm using 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil. I think this model here is a Muji Graph 1. It's like Graph 500 or something like that. It's like a drafting style mechanical pencil, right? You'll notice the long needle like tip, and that's really good for getting close to the workpiece. If you have like a blunt tip, it's gonna be kind of hard to get these corners. So highly recommend you invest in a decent mechanical pencil. And this is not like super expensive either. I have more expensive ones that are like like 40-50 bucks from Road Train. But those are nice. They're heavy. They're good for actually drawing, but they're a little bit too heavy for piece marking. I guess marking work pieces and things like that. This is a plastic body. It's pretty lightweight, but the grip is knurled, which is nice. It's good for grip, right? It's relatively thick diameter, which gives you a lot of control, precise control. And it's just overall a decent pencil. I used to be like a huge, I guess, mechanical pencil geek. Back in my middle school, high school days, and then in college, I slowly started to gravitate towards fountain pens, which you might have seen a video a while back, which was a attempted review. It's a whole world in and of itself, right? There's a small user base, but they're super passionate about it. I don't tend to use fountain pens when I make things because it's just a little bit too messy. Right, the ink is watery and things like that. So I actually prefer when I make things to use ballpoints and graphite lead pencils. So yeah, just some insight into the tools that I use. I do think tools are important. I don't know if my parents are watching this, but they don't believe that tools are important. They tried to make some, I don't know, it's like some wooden thing for, just general home improvement. And they were like, my mom specifically, she was like, you only need a handsaw to make that part. And, what do you know? It comes out and it looks very handmade and not very professional, but there's definitely pros and cons to that. It's this is getting a little bit, I guess, off topic and a little bit philosophical, but at least I'm still cutting this piece in the background here. But it's interesting, right? Like, you want to invest in good tools so that you can create good things, but also you have to weigh that with what it's worth to you, right? If you're only going to use that tool to cut wood once and you're not very picky about quality, then go ahead, by all means, use your handsaw. It's like those rectangular saws with the handles. It's used for hobby grade, I guess, cutting. It's not really meant for like furniture or anything larger than that. But they went ahead and did that, and the right tool can really make a difference. Is what I'm saying. And always invest in decent quality tools. Right? You wouldn't buy like a cheap, like $1 pencil from Walmart or something. Those cheap mechanical pencils. You want to get something nice and substantial so that you can keep on using it and it won't fail you. Nice thing about this pencil, this is really off topic, but the mechanism, I believe, is metal. So it's a metal clutch right here, right where the lead is being held. See, like a triangle split. So it's like 120 degrees split here. Well, I can't really focus in because it's my phone camera, but the mechanism is brass, which makes it highly durable. I think this is from like an ink spill, so in case you're wondering. But anyways, it's a decent movement, which is good. And I like to use this. This is like very well balanced. It's the weight is closer to the front, which is definitely a plus. This is going to be number 4, I believe. You can trim this when the time comes, but for now it's going to be designated number 4, which is identical to 1. Maybe a little bit taller, but it should be okay. Right, and these parts are pretty small, which is nice, so I can take advantage of these little corners here in the stock material. So I'm gonna just trace that. Ah, shit, I shouldn't be tracing that. I should be tracing the original. There we go. It's much better. You'll notice that it is quite a bit larger if you use a piece that you just made. And that's why you don't want to do that. You're compounding your errors if you trace a new part off the part that you just made instead of using the original template. And it's just good design practice. I know I've mentioned it before in my other live streams, but you really want to do that and not use your new component. I mean, I'm guilty of it sometimes though, you know, like sometimes I just get lazy and I forget, and then, you know, later on I wonder why the parts don't fit perfectly, and it's usually due to these decisions, right? You want to take the shortcut, you know, go ahead. It makes your life easier in the moment, but then your part isn't going to fit together properly, which is kind of not what I want. So I've taken that lesson to heart, I guess. So here we go. This is number 4, and I'm gonna mash those together. First of all, I'm gonna cut this. So like that. Right. Notice this is like slightly bowed outwards, which is kind of what I meant to do. Right, it's not vertical. It's kind of, I want to try and capture that bubble canopy look, right? And the bubble canopy does kind of come out at the, you know, where it meets the fuselage. You know, it pops out a little bit. It's not vertical. But, you know, on the F-22 and things like that, it's very interesting. It's flush, right? There's no discernible corner. It's just really sleek. It's well integrated into the fuselage. It's not like a bubble sticking out. And in many ways, the F-22 is like the peak of design that we're currently aware of, right? There's definitely black projects going on, experimental projects designed for the next, you know, the 6th gen fighter, supposedly that the Navy really wants, that the US Navy wants. It's gonna replace the F-18, I believe, but who knows? That's like years into the future. So this is pretty neat. All right, we have a cross section. Now we just need to cut it, and then we can't fold it before we cut it because we need it to be a tab, right? These triangles need to be tabs first before okay, so this cut was slightly slanted, but oh well, it's pretty close. Yeah, I know, I'm not perfect. I'm not a machine. I'm not a CNC machine, so these projects aren't gonna be like perfect, but they have that, oh god, this is gonna sound so cheesy, they have that human touch, you know, you can tell it's handcrafted by somebody because it's not machine perfect. I think, like, for the most part on real life airplanes, you can also tell that these were handmade, right? Some of these panels, they're just really like difficult to kind of I guess make, right? So some of it is actually still manual construction, at least what I've heard. I'm not actually in the airplane industry. I'm in the engine business, and everything there is not handmade, which is why engines are expensive and engine manufacturers lose money every time they sell an engine. All right, this is really frustrating. I'm just gonna use my X-Acto knife. There we go, much better. All right, that's what I did last time, is I used my X-Acto knife to get under and lift these tabs up, and then just crease it down like that. So these tabs, right, they're not like designated tabs, so to speak. They're just part of this cross section, and that's actually kind of clever. You know, it doesn't involve any extra cutting. and actually this triangular shape fits the kind of base structure here, which is like a, if you look from the front, it is kind of like a triangle, right? There's a hard crease on the nose, which is rather unfortunate, but it's an artifact of what we needed to do to make that part. This cardstock in general is kind of hard to work with when it comes to like surface modeling, right? It's very stubborn, and that's what makes it nice also, is that it's stubborn, right? You don't want a material that's too soft because then it's not durable. And also like the stubbornness, I guess, the stiffness of the material lends itself well to creating curves, right? So we look at like the vertical tail of the F-16 that I have right now. It's kind of, you know, there's like a thickness to it, right? Like you look at the shadows here, right? The shadows are dark on this side, but then it transitions because of this curvature, and it transitions to this highlight here, which is from the window to my left, which I think is a beautiful detail, and that's only possible with this material selection, right? If you use printer paper, it will still curve a little bit, but it's weaker, and you know, it's hard to get it to curve like this, because it likes to just fold, and yeah, it's slightly different. It behaves differently, I will say. It's not completely devoid of this characteristic here, but it is different. So you know, the stiffness of the material gives it that airfoil shape. Not only does the, you know, the structure inside the straw provide that shape, but the material itself also has to yield in this kind of fashion in order to get this shape. So it's like, you know, you really have to play with the material, experiment with it, work with it for a long time, get a lot of experience with it, and then you notice these types of characteristics, I guess, and you can use them to your advantage. So I'm going to place this here. So it's going to be right there. I'm going to slide my X-Acto knife under. I'm just going to fold it a little bit, right? And then use a proper ruler to crease it. This fold is going to interface with the actual fuselage, so it's important to get this right. Right, it's like, right, you might be wondering, it's like, why am I spending so much effort on a canopy? And part of me wants to say, you know, because I've already spent so much time on the rest of the aircraft, so I might as well. But, you know, it's like, it's really a matter of preference, I guess. You can do really quick and dirty builds, right? And a lot of people have done those, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. I'm trying to aim for something slightly higher quality and a little bit more detailed, but not, you know, like a super scale model. I think I touched upon this in previous videos, previous live streams, I mean, kind of the balance that I'm trying to strike here. So these two fit together fairly well. Now if I kind of stick a piece through both and then align them like that, I can, so this is the one that I want to match. I can try and trim this to match the profile of the, I guess, first production piece of #1 bulkhead. That looks decent here. that's good. That's flush. And then you take that piece out, right? This is number 1. This is 1 on the back, right? I can tell because it's, you know, slightly different, but you'll have to work with your own piece. It might be worthwhile to label which one's which. But I mean, it's the same piece, so it shouldn't matter if you made it correctly. And you just slide both of these onto this center, I guess, column here. I don't know what else to call it. I believe this has already been trimmed. Nope, it has not. All right, so I need to cut this a little bit, give it a little bit of a thickness. Oh, it's a very tiny sliver material. You can see like little pieces right here, but not too concerned about the pieces. We're just concerned about the slot. There just needs to be slightly enough clearance, larger clearance than 0, I mean, for the pieces to really fit in. That's 1 on the front, that's 1 on the back, okay. That's good. Oh, I don't think I marked the back. Oh, just kidding, I did. It's on the other side. Alright, never mind. So that aside. And the whole reason why we went with this dual construction is to, okay, so maybe we do need to modify number 1 here. The whole reason for the dual layer is to make it a little bit stiffer, right? And also cancels out, well, it's not really showing that here, but it cancels out some of the warping that happens. So this is warped, but we can probably fix that. Again, we haven't really taped down anything. These are all dry fit right now. It might look like they're final assembled, but they're not. They're kind of works in progress. So I need to tape these down individually. But before we do that, I should probably take this and modify it, right? So this isn't a perfect fit again, right? So we only made like 1 prototype here of the cross section for the number 1 bulkhead. So what we need to do is kind of mark off where the cap is, right? The extent of how far it goes, and then okay. So this is gonna be kind of finicky. I also have no idea what I'm doing, just like in general. I'm like kind of just winging everything. So yeah, that's that. I need to trim this, and I don't know if this is gonna work, but alright, so we want this kind of a shape, which we kind of drew out. We need to make this slightly smaller. Alright, so let's see. If we fold this in half and try and match this shape, I'm just like trying to get an exact geometry down. I don't know, like this, something like that. Just make it a little bit lower, right? Something like that. Trace it onto the original template. I know I said you can't really trace it once it's been done, but oh well. I don't know what I'm doing, and chances are you guys don't either. And I encourage you to actually stay in that frame of mind. Right, because when you don't know how to do something, that's when you discover new ways to do things. That's kind of where I operate, like I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm experimenting. So alright, so this is the reduced profile, which we're now going to have to transfer onto our pre-existing parts here. Again, this could have been avoided if I prototyped a little bit more, so now you see the importance of not rushing, getting the right shape on printer paper first. Shit. All right. There we go. This is a little bit better. It's not perfect. So I got a comment from, whoops. I got a comment from Benjamin Rogers, I think. The way you did the canopy is totally different than how I do it. I like it. It's very detailed. Thanks. You know, this method is kind of what RC aircraft designers do, right? They make like bulkheads and things like that to get like the exact shape that they design in CAD or whatnot. And you know, it works great at those larger scales, but I've never seen it done, at least not often, for, you know, kind of paper aircraft scales like this. It's a little bit tedious because the parts are really tiny. It's kind of hard to manipulate and work with. Even at this scale, like this F-16 is quite large, and this canopy is still pretty complicated. But, you know, it is what it is. It just takes a lot of time to get right. That's pretty much it. But the results look great, I feel like, you know. Alright, so I didn't cut any of the bottom piece. Like, I didn't cut the base of the structure, so I can line that up there. So I think I might have ruined this cross section, to be honest. But, you know, we're just gonna roll with it. There we go. Alright, we can test this out. How does it fit? Again, these are bulkheads, right? They're gonna be inside, so they're not too flight critical. And this is like a canopy. It's not even it's not even a flight structure. We don't even have a pilot, so we don't even need this, but oh well. I'll do it for the heck of it, right? I guess this method can be applied to real life, I guess, you know, like outside of the canopy parts. But I just haven't found the need to do that. Oh, actually, you know, that actually fits quite nicely. Wow. All right. I think there was another comment that I missed a while back. Top Paper Airplanes Rogers. You're a better man than me. I would never have made the canopy. I don't know if I'm a better man. I'm just a guy who wants to make and just really like understand this. I really just want to make beautiful things, and you know, I like airplanes, and you know, I like my professional career is with jet engines. I majored in aerospace engineering. I just want to really create nice things. This is all I want to really do in life. And if a company lets me do that, then I think, you know, I'm in a good place, and they're going to be in a good place because I'm going to put my all into it. But yeah, like this level of quality, right? You really have to adopt that mindset. It's not like, it's not easy to just say, okay, I want to make this, you know. It's hard. It takes discipline. It's not done overnight either. You know, if you look at some of my early projects, they're absolute shit, right? You know, looking back, it's like obvious. It's like, whoa, that's terrible. You know, you just literally taped some extensions onto a you know, Dart paper airplane, and you know, Like, you expect that to fly? No way, right? But everybody has to start somewhere, right? So that was my starting point. And gradually through the years, you will try and you know improve. At least that's how I see it, right? You want to always try and improve. You don't want to stay complacent and make things the same way forever. Just try new ideas, right? Who knows what you'll discover, right? It's not only for the manufacturing, but also for design, right? Things like, how do you design, right? The methodology behind the design. What are you making your planes out of? I can tell you right now, I don't have a 3D printer, but I actually got my dad a 3D printer for his birthday back in May. And we're experimenting with printing aircraft models through that kind of a technique, right? So, I'm always experimenting, testing out new things, right? You never know what you can do until you try it, and sometimes it fails, right? Like the first canopy that I made for this F-16, it was absolute crap, but it tested out a new idea, and I know now, hey, I can't do that because it'll turn out like crap. That's always been kind of the philosophy behind these projects, right? They're not world changing, right? They're not gonna improve the world, or improve national security, because they're not drones or anything like that. They're literally just paper planes. But it's my opportunity, outside of work, outside of professional career, outside of everything else in this world, to really just sit down and just create something beautiful. And to me, it's like kind of like art, right? But people are gonna say, it's like not really art. It's not like a painting or a drawing in the traditional sense. But to me, it's kind of like art. And there's definitely tricks to it, right? There's techniques that you learn and improve upon. So sorry, I'm getting like all philosophical and sappy and everything like that. That's probably not what you signed up for. But I do think about these things a lot, and I feel like it's really about a certain attitude in how you approach these things that really reflects in the final project, in the final product. I mean, so if you have that quality mindset, right? I think this is actually a saying. It's like a quote from a famous architect. I think his name was like Norman. I forgot his full name. I'm kind of embarrassed, but because I'm into architecture and design and that kind of influence, cultural sphere, I guess. Norman Foster. That's his name. Yeah, it's he had a great quote that I really took into heart. It was from like a documentary that I watched a while back. It said that good design, right, quality, craftsmanship is really not tangible. It's more like a state of mind, right? And that's kind of a takeaway from his quote. I don't remember the exact quote, but you can definitely search it up. It's a pretty famous quote. It's a state of mind. You really want to try and want the best for the end product, and it's hard to teach that through a live stream, but you really have to embrace that kind of attitude to create great things. So that's end of my rant. Hopefully you take something out of this. Not many people watch this kind of a live stream, so whoever does watch it, if you can take away something, then my goal will have been achieved. Why do I do this? I like creating beautiful things, and hopefully it'll inspire some other people to also create beautiful things. That's like pretty naive, right? It's a naive thought, but I really do believe that if we all try and create great things, this world will end up in a better place, right? not only like it's like a it's kind of yeah, I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's like an act of service to the rest of society if you put your best into the work that you do, right? But that's the bold statement, right? That's a really bold statement. It's not everybody's gonna believe that, and that's okay. You know, some people are just working for paychecks, but you know, you always want to try and strive for something more. You know, make meaning in your work, right? And it's gonna be hard to really get this idea, like higher level thoughts into everybody else. This is definitely like, it might seem like high concept, pretty condescending, but honestly, it's what I truly believe in, like just creating great things. So, and my craftsmanship definitely needs improvement, right? It's not perfect. I'm not machine perfect. And with new tools, new processes, right? Through that spirit, you can get to a better place, right? So through the years, you know, I've I started with like scissors, and you know, eventually for long straight edges like you know, the F-16's trailing edge and fuselage and whatnot. You know, I switched, right? I like tested out new tools like the board, the cutting board, right? The straight edge cutter. Things like that. You know, you want to be able to try new things, you know, test it out. Always do research, you know, see what's new out there. And never just really stick with like a traditional method. You know, people ask me sometimes, right? Like I get comments on YouTube videos. You know, how do you make these airplanes? And quite honestly, my answer is I don't know, right? This goes back to the point where I'm just saying, like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I'm just testing out ideas and ways, right? And, you know, once you do that, you can acquire kind of a library of sorts of knowledge, right? You can say, I know that this works. You can use this material property to do this thing. And, you know, it's just that adventurous spirit that drives me forward, I guess. Sounds kind of cheesy, but it is what it is. So, all right. So I'm just gonna use my X-Acto knife, right? Lift this edge up, makes it easier. Pinch this with another ruler, right? So this bulkhead is pretty much done. We're at about an hour into the stream, so we have approximately another hour, 10 minutes. Let's keep on working on this. So hopefully we can make some progress here. Really want to start to panel this entire structure up. I know it's not gonna be perfect, right? Because it's never perfect. Nothing you make is ever perfect. That's like kind of the mentality that I have. But we can always try and get there, right? I'm saying that especially because this area right here is highly curved. It's not a very linear piece to mold around. So I'm gonna cut a little sliver out of this real quick. So you'll notice that the fuselage of the F-16 right here in the back, right, this is a fairly straightforward fold. You have a loft structure and you can put a piece of panel this way and it's gonna fold nicely. But things like the nose, right, for the nose, it already got a little bit complicated, right? The seams are very sharp and it's highly curved, and that's why it's really hard to model that. And the cockpit is the same. It's going to be hard to model because it's a lot of curvature in a very small footprint. So, you know, we're going to try our best, but there's no guarantee that it'll work, right? It might look good now, but who knows? When I try and panel it, if it doesn't work, then it's like, you know, what am I going to do? So we'll have to see and kind of just roll with the punches here. So this is not fit. Oh, all right, it just finally went in. Okay, so this back piece here might need to be modified a little bit more as well. I think we can actually just deepen the cut a little bit and then get it to work. I don't want to deepen it too much, but I do think we need to cut it a little tiny bit more. And then this side, you know, increase the gap here to really accommodate these two last number 4 bulkheads here. All right, so I'm gonna say, like, you can definitely use this technique to model the rest of your aircraft. It's just, for the most part, I feel like straws are easier to work with, you know. It's slightly easier to use to try and shape these things. I think this can go a little bit deeper as well, this cut. Right now it's a little bit shallow. So sorry for being off camera. Here you go. Got a little bit deeper. Yeah, there we go. Alright, and we can rip that out. Alright, number 3 bulkhead now fits a little bit better. There we go. Alright, yeah, so that's what I mentioned last time. The way we did the central spine, we had tabs that were broken up that, you know, folded over at different points. That's kind of working. But also we need to start taping this down. I think this looks decent. I don't know if the end product will look great, but for now it looks okay. We need to tape these in place, right, to really secure it, and then tape the intersections. I don't know. I think it might have a little bit of glue. This might be the only time I ever use glue in one of these projects. This is like tacky glue, Aleene's tacky glue, craft glue. It's not very wet, so it's good for these types of applications. I've heard from places that it also doesn't warp the paper underneath, which is good. But I don't know. Maybe not. So you should zoom in a little bit closer here. Let's take a sip of Coke or something. All right. So this is looking decent. I'm gonna grab the tape real quick. Oh, for this, I feel like sure it's aligned from above. The tape itself doesn't actually matter in alignment. I guess it does, but it's like such a small effect on the overall plane. willing to overlook that. And so we taped this side right here. This is going to be pretty tedious, so if you don't want to watch this, please feel free to work on your own projects, or click away or whatever. But I'm going to essentially tape every single one of these tabs, and it's going to take a while, but it's going to be good. It's going to be a lot better than what we did before. Right, so that's that, and I use tweezers here. Kind of fix that in place. All right, looks pretty good. All right, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, the numerals are there. So we taped the diagonal opposite to where we first taped, which is good. I'm afraid this tape will get less sticky over time because I'm touching it so much. But it's a sacrifice we're gonna have to make. All right, now I'm taping the front port side. Right, really just secure it in place. This is gonna be its small, tight corner. That's why I like tape. Tape is a lot stronger than glue, I want to say, because glue, you're relying on a fluid that dries, and you're trying to use its chemical bonds, which, you know, like tape is also chemical bonds, right? It's just adhesive, but tape also has another level of strength in that it is a plastic, which is just pretty strong in tension, right? And that's why I oftentimes, I mean, like I mostly use oh shoot, I can't focus right now. Mostly use tape. There we go. I finished my sentence. Congrats. All right, so it might be kind of hard to do that, so I'm just gonna use. I'm just gonna use my tweezers directly. Right, first bulkhead is done. Now if we keep it up, you can get a good solid foundation to loft over. Right, so I'm just gonna trim another slice of tape. And we're just gonna keep on working our way through this. Alright, so that one came down pretty nicely. Okay, looks good. Diagonal corner. Oh, I learned that from my dad, I think. When you kind of secured, it's gonna be kind of hard to. Well, it might misalign, first of all, right? Might misalign the other two corners. It's just a tip. Advice. So screw opposite corners together. Shit, I might have to move this one a little bit forward. That's much better. Okay. Alright. Yeah, so I taped this side, the starboard side, a little too aft. So I just took it off a little bit, shifted it forward. Should be good now. I don't know if it's focusing, but whatever. So we have the diagonal corners done. So that means the rest of the corners are aligned. And we just keep on cutting strips of tape and do this. I think on a real life aircraft, there's like a ton of these things, to the point where, you know, you might as well just machine it out of one block. But you have to realize that also costs a lot of money, and it might not be possible in the first place. So. Damn, if I could work for an airframe manufacturer, that would be amazing. But sorry for the kids outside, they're pretty loud. To deal with that. Alright, so this is gonna get interesting because this number 2 and number 3 kind of overlap at the base. Alright, you'll see that kind of overlaps right here. So we'll have to be careful when we tape down that side. But I'm sure it'll be fine. We have a lot of clearance. Right, so we're gonna move that back. Actually, we just take this off. It doesn't have to be there. And shoot. All right. All right, that's good. Use that blunt tip here. To really secure that in place. Sound good? It's a little bit slanted, but I think overall it's still okay. Hey Peter, I see you. Yellow 14As, you stole my name. Nice to talk to you again. He's a buddy from high school. Yeah, he likes to parody my account, so hello. You know, if you really wanted to parody my account, you should change yours to Y14A. So all right, looks pretty good. Just going to do this one next. This number 3 is going to be interesting because the way I have it done, part of it is underneath. Oh shoot, I forgot which one's which. I feel like this is the back, this is the front. Part of it is underneath the panel, the spine. So whatever, we'll just roll with the punches. All right. So trim a sliver of tape. And then, all right, so number 3, if I secure this side, right? And then, actually, so for this piece, I'm thinking about doing both front pieces first because the back is supported by that kind of a, this tab, right? This tab is from the spine itself, and we're just tucking that underneath. So since there's support right here, we can just move it back, shift it into place, and then tape this down in the front. So that'll be very nice for alignment. Just cut another sliver. Sorry for this being so tedious, but it is what it is. So also, I'm like, part of me is like just trying to kill time, right, with this whole situation going on. I'm just kind of bored, and boredom leads to great things. You can channel it into productivity. All right, looks good. Let me just secure those back panels right there. We're almost out of tape here. We used up a whole piece of tape for this entire bulkhead. Should look at that. Let's just try and get it in there. Slide your finger off, right? Yeah, I kind of have to have a little bit of developed fine motor skills here. It's really tiny and delicate, so you want to be careful. Well, I guess delicate in the sense that you can mess up the tape, not the structural part, because it's actually quite rigid. I've only done this one other time, and that was on the B2 project that I did way back. That one was a failure because I rushed it, right? I tried to do this method and I rushed it, and it wasn't great. Also, I didn't have a good understanding of the material, so it looks like we secured the front two and the back port side. So we just need to do the back starboard side. And this is the last piece of tape, so I didn't even have to cut it. But just essentially just snugly place it in the corner and use tweezers, use the blunt tip of the tweezers to kind of just secure all the adhesive from the tape onto the actual thing. I like that. And yeah, and we're on the last bulkhead, which is really nice. All right, so I'm just gonna rip another piece of tape. It's gonna be fairly short because we don't need that much. So I'm just gonna do half and then half of half, which is a quarter, which is about right. So this is one of those things, right? I'm gonna say this and you're gonna be like, what the hell? Like, I thought this was a little bit more precise than that. But eyeballing is a critical skill. Developing a good sense of ratio is a good skill to have. You can always, for things like tape, right? You don't want to spend time and measure out like, oh, I need this much tape and whatnot. You want to be able to eyeball things quickly and relatively accurately so that you can work fast and still have decent results. They might be slightly off, right? But for handicrafts like this, that's highly invaluable because you save a bunch of time. Because if I wanted to, I could cut these strips of tape to exact dimensions, but that's gonna take more time. And is it worth it? It's like you gotta ask yourself those questions. And most of the time, it's no, probably not. So with a good eyeball job, then you don't really need to worry about whether or not the tape's gonna work. But that also holds true for other areas of this hobby, which is design. When you draw, right, you want to really get a good sense of the proportion of your wingspan to your entire length of your fuselage, things like that. Get a good sense of that, and you create some really neat things, right? Because a lot of our world that we perceive is through relations, right? It's going to be kind of hard to explain, but the design of everyday objects, you can tell if it's, like your sense of ratios is already there. It's just you need to make it aware to yourself, right? And once you do that, you can have a good sense of that, and when you try and develop your own designs, you can incorporate a specific ratio, right? For example, in my earlier projects in the YX series, I oftentimes did this thing where like I clicked measurements to the nearest half inch or quarter inch or things like that. And I still do sometimes, but I've been a little bit more lax recently on those rules. And so you can really tell the difference when something looks a little bit more organic or something like that. It's kind of unspoken, right? Ratios are unspoken, but they convey a lot of meaning, right? They convey. This is gonna sound sappy, but it's psychological, and it conveys emotion, right? Why does a sports car evoke speed, right? Because it's very low to the ground, right? But what defines low to the ground? If you have, if you're off the ground by, like 6 inches, and, your car is really tall, then it's going to look like it's not very close to the ground, even though it's only 6 inches off the ground. It's the ratio, right, of the height to the width, or I guess length in that case, that'll really convey that it's close to the ground, it's good for speed, things like that. So it's, ratios are kind of hard, right? You have to be able to eyeball them, but I think they do convey a lot of meaning behind the design of anything, really. I mean, you could be working on like a report at work with with a PowerPoint pitch attached, and if that pitch is designed visually balanced, and the proportions are in place, then you have a good design, and people will notice and say, hey, I trust these results. Like they might not say it out loud, but you're conveying that you spent effort and consideration in the work that you do. So that's just a little bit of deep contemplation, I guess, about my thoughts on using proportions and ratios and things like that. That's why studying art is a huge benefit to my life, just overall quality of life. Get to notice these things, and once you do, you can create beautiful things, and your life all of a sudden has a purpose, and things like that. All right, so we're pretty much done with the bulkheads. So that only took like a stream and a half. We're going to 130 minutes. We're at 85 minutes right now, but we're gonna try and wrap this and finish off the canopy definitively today. So again, we have to go back and try and experiment. This is really literally no other way to do this other than experimentation. So let's see, how are we gonna do this? I'm figuring this out for the first time as well, so you're just streaming along for the ride, I guess. So we have these bulkheads, just getting a feel of where everything is, right? This is where it ends, this is kind of where it starts, right? And then we have a, I don't know, like an arc. So I guess we could like make tabs that cover half a span here, right? Like again, it's gonna be discretized. We can't really make something perfectly curved if we approximate, but we can, you know, something like that, right? A tab coming down like that gets reinforced down here. My only concern is how is it going to overlap with the next tab, right? So something like that. Don't know. And then you make some cuts here. This is the random idea. I actually have no idea. I'm coming up with this on the fly right now. So you guys are witnesses to invention at the moment. It's like, otherwise, how are you gonna wrap this around, right? It's like, it's kind of tough. As you could, let me just take another scrap piece of paper here. Just cut this across like this. Make it a smaller piece. Alright, so we could just do it by force. Try and get this to work, but I doubt it's gonna produce a fantastic result. Well, this is interesting. Okay, so I have to make it go down like that. Actually, that's an interesting thought. What if we just like banded it? Instead of going this way, we like did it this way. That'd be easier, right? Or we could go like this and then band it. So the benefits of doing this are that, you know, the air is gonna flow nicely. Because if we have this, then the seams are gonna interfere with the airflow. I mean, either way, the seams are gonna interfere with the airflow, but which way produces the least effect? Because in real life, it's like, you can cut strips of paper and see where it goes. I'm just gonna experiment right now. Sorry for all the vocal fry. I'm getting a little bit tired, but you gotta power through here. Alright, so something like that, right? I don't know how this is gonna work, to be honest. Okay, so we do have a little slot right here. So if we fit that in. Oh, okay, that's nice. Alright. And wrap this around. For small angles, we can approximate. And wrap it around, but it's not ideal either. Sideways we can create a very nice piece. The only thing is, how is it gonna look once it's done, right? That's the only concern. So another benefit of doing it like this is that we might be able to approximate the shape better, which is always good. Except we'll have to do it right on the bulkheads. We can't be doing it behind on one of these sharp edges, right? We have to do it right on the cross, because then it lofts it up and then allows the shape to take form. I guess the first step is to create like a transition, right? So what I mean by that is we can't directly tape panels however we want directly to this, but we need like an intermediate thing right here at the intersections, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 to allow us to build on top of that. This is gonna be interesting. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, so I mean, like this. All right, just probably cut this off. This is like using the stock material itself as kind of a prototype material. All right, this is quite weird. I'm trying to test this out. Okay, well, hey, that's interesting. It fits, and maybe I could just keep on doing that, and eventually it'll cover everything. Very interesting. I think this is like similar, but not exactly like the first method that I did. Which was using the tape as the actual surface, and then we had like a cardstock loft on it. This might actually work. And then you tuck the next one underneath, and then so the edges kind of overlap each other, like a shell on a lobster, right? Huh, that's interesting. Nature inspired, right? If you look at lobsters, their shells on their back kind of intersect at these corners down here, but then like in between they're like connected, right? So they're approximating a curve, but they're not. They're actually distinct. So that's pretty cool. I might actually do that. The only issue I have with this is potentially what the material on the side is going to look like right here. We could fold it in, but we don't really have a method to secure it if we fold it inwards. Right, unless we pre-cut it and pre-tape it, which is going to be kind of difficult. We won't be able to access this first compartment right here once we tape this down, right? Because you can definitely tape on one side and then like cover it over, but then how are you going to tape the other side, right? You'll only be able to tape on the outside, which is I prefer to keep things symmetric like that. So also, do I want to use another color, or do I just want to use gray? I feel like gray is just, it's gonna be kind of boring, but it'll do. I don't know. Let's check the comments here real quick in the chat. If you do start from the back of the canopy, so the seam is covered underneath. You know, that's very interesting, right? Because that's kind of exactly what this is, except you're working your way backwards by tucking the next piece underneath, right? So it's kind of like sheath and covered like that. And then once it's all done, you can create like a side panel to cover up some of the seams, but it's just the initial layer that's gonna be kind of troublesome here. So okay, we're at 95 minutes, so we have about 30 minutes to do this. I'm kind of under a little bit of pressure here to do this, but let's see. All right, so this is good. It's just this piece isn't standardized. It's not like a standard shape or anything. We do have a straight edge here. It's a cut straight edge. It's not a perfect straight edge. Since this is like a one-off, right? Each panel is going to be a one-off. I don't need like exact measurements. They just need to work. And yeah, that's just the nature of it, I guess. How does this work? This okay, maybe not like that. Maybe if we flip it over, did it, the shape would be better tailored. Yeah. All right, so we can like cut this a little bit. I'm gonna roll it over my index finger here. Match things up. I'm not gonna make a fold, but we are gonna have to cut this a little bit. So you'll notice there's not a hard crease, but the piece is round now, so that's that. This is highly sketched. Like, I actually have no idea what I'm doing, so. I'm rounding that corner, something like that. Hopefully it'll fit. Oh, whoops. Finger slipped a little bit there. Hopefully it'll fit a little better right here. What do you know? That's a decent fit. It's just a little bit short of covering that intersection, which is what we need, because otherwise you see that sharp crease is going to come through because it's not supported there. So I don't know. Actually, the initial shape was great. I just messed it up. Rip. All right. All right. So this is going to be like a prototype. So I'm just going to fold this. This is not the final piece, so we can't afford to just crease this completely for sake of symmetry here. Just gonna trim that off to make everything uniform. And then this front bit. So ends right about there. Need it to go here. I don't know if this is gonna work. This might be a better fit, to be honest. quite wide enough. It needs to be wider. It can be a little shorter. So like this. This short is okay, but it needs to be considerably wider. Okay, so let's do that. I have a feeling I'm not going to complete this today, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So. Okay, so here's the game plan. I'm not gonna worry about what this looks like on the side because we're likely going to need another panel right here anyway to really secure these panels in place, but also to cover this ugly seam right here. So it can be a little bit wide, doesn't matter, but it shouldn't be excessively obvious, I guess. So this is good. This is I'm gonna call this. So it's gonna go like this. So this is number 1, right? Number 1 panel, and then we really have no way of doing this other than making the actual part because we cannot build the next one until the previous one is built. Sorry for playing the pronoun game there. We can't build the next panel. We can't surface model it until we start somewhere. Yeah, because everything is kind of interlinked in the structure. So this is why I like to use straws. Right? Straws are easy to wrap around. They're resilient. They don't like to break. They're just a little bit easier to work with. So. Alright, let's see if there are any comments or chat messages. Nope. That's another reason for not wanting excessive waste is that if you do have a lot of cardstock material on the sides, it's gonna be pretty stiff, and you're gonna have to fight it to get it to really fold the way you want it to. This looks quite good, actually. Wow, I'm actually surprised how well this turned out. Actually overlaps the next bulkhead number 2 a little bit. That's pretty neat, I guess. that's good. All right, so we're just gonna start taping this. So this is gonna be kind of difficult. It's kind of like surface modeling, but not really. It's a little bit different. I mean, it is surface modeling, but it's just not the same kind of surface modeling that we did before. So it's gonna be a little difficult, but we can kind of maybe do that. Doesn't have to be permanent, it just has to keep it in place for now. Okay, looks good, looks good. Now you let it do that. You don't have to keep it down because you already have one side in place. And then fold it right and make sure it's tight. There it is, stuff. I have this tape here. Okay, looks decent right now. I'm gonna apply a slight piece of tape here to really secure it in place. Again, all these seams are gonna be covered, so no worries if it doesn't look great off the bat. And the nose here. Should probably tape that. So when you crash, you don't want dirt and other stuff to get in. So what I mean is that when you apply the panel that covers this seam right here, we can actually shape the profile of the canopy from the side, right? And that'll match up closer to the real life thing. But we won't worry about that for now. For now, we should worry about this next panel. Which is going to be interesting. We can cut this, because this is going to be scrap either way. Just test out what needs to be done. I'd say this is like the fun bit, right? This is pretty fun to me. When you get everything to fit and everything just clicks into place and works. That's what I live for. And when things don't go your way, then you're just disappointed. This is probably the most difficult bit right here, to be honest. This is the highest amount of curvature in a single piece. So we might have to break it up into multiple pieces to make it work. Let's just test this out. A piece here, a piece here. Does that fit? Better than before. Certainly not perfect. I don't think it's enough. It's just barely enough material to cover the side. I'm just seeing where it would fit a little bit better. But once you get back here, then you can afford to have a larger piece because the curvature is not that big. So, I don't know. What if we tried doing this? It's starting to look a little bit better. I think we might need a piece like that to help support the inside of this curve right here. Right. And we can use our tweezers to force that shape in. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know. Feels like this would just be easier. Then you have the issue of overlapping tabs. But if you put it on the inside, it's gonna give you relatively same results, except it's harder to assemble. Right, there's a larger gap if you put it inside. If you put it on the outside, you can at least control how tight it's gonna get. So that's an interesting point. Okay, so with that in mind, I think I'm gonna do the over method and go against what I said before. We need to have a good seal, so it has to be over. I'd rather have an over seal with a tighter clearance than the other way around, where we go under and leave a large gap because we couldn't seal it properly in the manufacturing and building phase. So we are going to I'm just gonna draw that a little bit. Again, excess is okay, it's just not ideal, but I'd rather have excess than too little, because with excess you can actually tune and trim and modify things, you know. Can't do that if you have too little material. You can always add, but it's just not gonna be, it's gonna be one more piece of tape to deal with, right? It's gonna be one more part. It's easier to just not deal with that. Trim this real quick. Get it to be equal on both sides. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just testing this out right here. Okay, so I think the approach here, since we don't want a gap at the top, is to start taping at the top. By top, I mean like the forward portion here. Right? Something like that. Or like that. Right? And just tape the middle. And really just start at the middle. Right? You don't want this gap, so if we tape here, then this is gonna turn out a little bit better, marginally. less than that. All right. Notice this takes a lot of time to think through. Okay, so I think we have a good idea of where those feet are gonna go. It's a little bit short. Damn it. All right, that should be better. Like that. You just have a piece of tape hanging off like that. Okay. This is the tricky bit. How do we make it good? Curvature is good on every side. Okay, so actually we don't need that much on the back. So just take this off. Should use my X-Acto knife for this. Sorry, I wasn't on camera there. Don't actually need the back part of this. But we do need the bottom side here. So tape really closely. Go. Okay, let's try that again. Tighter. Tight, tight, tight. Much better. Oh my god, this thing is bulbous. Alright, but like we can cover that up later and then try and reduce the profile. So it's not a huge deal. It just looks a little bit weird. Dang, we're at 124 minutes already? Alright. We're almost gonna be done here in about 6 minutes or so. So I'm gonna try my best and do this, but it's going to take some time. I feel like by the end of the next stream we should be done with the canopy, but the canopy is just taking so damn long to do. Just trim that and then you can just rip it off like that, and then you just have a little bit hanging off there. Okay, so this is going to be really, really tight, close to that, and then you just crease it in there and tape it in place. Something like that. Yeah, we're definitely going to need a side panel to cover up these ugly ass seams. But for the most part, this is pretty much done. As to reduce the number of these panels, I think we can try and attempt to do this end piece in one go. Maybe. I don't know. There's still a little bit of curvature here, but it's not too much, I guess. Alright. Might be a little bit too long, but who cares? Alright. I don't know if I'm gonna do a hard stop today. I only have 4 minutes left. And we're in the middle of another piece. It's pretty rectangular to me. Looks good. And then now you start curving it down the middle. Right? Something like that. You just pull it down. Something like that. The top not overlapping, but just barely touching each other. So you can tape that. Alright. Little piece of tape down the middle. Right, same procedure as before. Right, looks pretty good. Oh crap, we're almost out of time. Oh my god. Alright, let's just trim off a little bit on each side here. This is by no means precise, but we're gonna cover it anyways, so should be all good. Dang. Alright, yeah, I gotta end on time, guys. So I'm gonna call it for this week. But we definitely will finish this next time. I might finish this after we end, but please work on your own projects, stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Sorry for ending so punctually, but yeah, talk to you guys next week.